Imagine this scenario. A man meets a woman who not only attracts him, but also touches a part of him that he didn't even know existed. At first, everything seems under control. He feels confident, secure, as if he has the reins in his hands. But then, something changes unexpectedly. That woman, instead of clinging to him or showing anxiety about holding on to him, simply lets him go without complaints, without drama, without fear. And it is precisely in that serene yet powerful gesture where something almost primitive occurs. An ancestral spark is ignited in the male heart, a deep impulse that rises from the unconscious, pushing him toward her without fully understanding why. Louise Hay, a recognized author known for her transformative vision of inner power and self-healing, reminds us that all real change starts in our mind. From this perspective, we can understand how detachment, far from being indifference, can become a magnetic force that attracts effortlessly. In a world where most people chase attention, validation, and easy likes, a woman who radiates emotional freedom and isn't desperate to hold on to anyone becomes something rare, and for that reason, profoundly desired. What the man perceives in this type of woman is not just a simple seduction trick, but an authentic manifestation of a psychological and symbolic principle that is much older. Mystery and autonomy awaken genuine desire. We are not talking about emotional manipulation. This goes deeper, to the very structure of the human mind. Louise insisted that thoughts create our reality, and when a woman acts from a place of inner power, not begging for love, she is reconfiguring the type of energy she projects, and that energy has a direct effect on those around her, especially on men. Now stop for a second and ask yourself, how many times have you seen a man obsess over a woman who didn't seem to do anything to win him over? A woman who, even from a distance, maintained an almost hypnotic strength. Do you think that happens by chance? Or perhaps there is a deeper dynamic at play behind the scenes? What you're about to discover might radically change the way you understand relationships. What if the real secret to making a man fall in love deeply isn't chasing him, earning his approval, or demonstrating your love with every message, but allowing him to decide to fall in love in freedom? It sounds paradoxical, I know, because everything in our culture and in our own minds urges us to do the opposite. Insist, please, prove we are worth it. But here's where a powerful truth comes into play. The more we try to control love, the further we get from its essence. Louise Hay spoke about the power of letting go, of releasing what we don't need to control. In love, this principle becomes crucial, because when we force a connection, we interfere with a process that is, by nature, organic and mysterious. When you give a man space to miss you, to project his desire without interference, a fascinating psychological mechanism is activated. Your mind, faced with the void of your absence, begins to fill it with images, emotions, and ideas about you. That's where the magic happens. It's not your constant presence that ignites the fire, but your ability to be unforgettable in your absence. And yes, if instead of giving space, you invade it with persistent messages trying to confirm his interest or prove that you're a good option, the spell breaks. The predictable loses its charm. What is always available by nature ceases to be desired. True attraction doesn't come from pursuit, but from a special type of presence, the presence of a woman grounded in her personal power. This woman doesn't play games, doesn't act, doesn't apply superficial strategies. She simply knows who she is. Louise Hay taught us that when a person recognizes their own worth without depending on external recognition, they emit a different vibration, and men, even if they can't explain it, perceive it. They are drawn to it like a magnet, towards something they can't fully possess. And it's precisely that touch of mystery that drives them to want to know her more, to seek her, to connect from a deeper place. They don't fall in love with someone who crawls after them, but with the one who reveals without words that there is something in her worth discovering. Letting go, then, is not about giving up. It's a silent demonstration of trust. It's showing that you don't need to control anyone to have them choose you, and in that gesture, You reveal a strength that many men don't easily find. When you decide to release control and focus on your own personal growth, you transform into an unforgettable figure. True love is born in a fertile ground of freedom, not in a prison of emotional dependence. And if you've ever met someone who seemed to have a natural magnetism, that special energy that attracts effortlessly, now you know why. That person didn't beg for attention. They didn't need it because they were already filled from within. And that, precisely, is the type of presence that transforms superficial relationships into memorable bonds. Today, we will delve into knowledge that could change your love life from the root. We will discover what truly makes a man fall deeply, authentically, and lastingly in love. And no, it's not about techniques or empty formulas. It's something much more powerful, an energy that comes from within you. When a woman radiates inner calm, when she appears confident without the need to boast, something fascinating happens in the mind of the man who observes her. Without uttering a single word, she sends a silent but incredibly powerful message. I don't need to hold on to you to know that I am valuable. This pure, authentic energy cannot be faked, and it is exactly what ignites real, genuine desire, something impossible to force. Louise Hay frequently spoke about the power of our thoughts and how the beliefs we hold influence how others perceive us. If you deeply believe that you are enough, that you don't need to chase anyone to deserve love, then your vibration changes, and this internal change has visible effects on the outside world. Human desire moves based on certain deep, unconscious patterns. When someone feels they have the freedom to choose without pressure, their mind opens. It starts to explore possibilities, to imagine futures, and it is in that mental space, free of demands, where authentic feelings can truly flourish. It's not magic. It's emotional psychology in its purest form. The great secret of attraction actually lies in mystery, in allowing the other person space to wonder about you, to miss you, to imagine what it would be like to have you close. When a man doesn't feel forced to make hasty decisions, his unconscious starts working on your behalf. He reflects, feels your absence, and begins to realize your true value. And here is the beauty of all this. It's not a strategy to manipulate emotions, but to create an environment where love can arise authentically. By not trying to control his perception or fill the space with words, you give your presence a much more powerful quality. It becomes real. It becomes valuable. It becomes unforgettable. Think of it this way. If a butterfly lands gently on your hand, any abrupt movement will scare it away. The same happens with desire. If a man feels pressure, urgency to be held onto, something in him pulls back. But when he feels he has the freedom to approach, he will do so of his own accord, not because he is forced, but because he deeply desires it. Louise, in many of his writings, reminds us that trusting oneself is one of the bravest acts we can perform. Letting go, from this perspective, doesn't mean giving up or losing. It means having the certainty that what is true will always find its way back, and that includes love. Deep down, we all long to feel that we have chosen out of conviction, not pressure, that the love we give arises from an authentic desire, not from obligation. When a man is truly interested, there is no need to chase him or insist. His actions will speak more clearly than any promise, because genuine love doesn't need speeches. It manifests in consistency, in everyday gestures, in that spontaneous effort to be close. Pay attention to the details. That's where the truth lies. An emotionally connected man does not forget the little things. He won't miss the nuances that others overlook. He will ask if you arrived safely, not out of courtesy, but because he truly wants to know. He will remember that seemingly trivial story you told him one afternoon because he is already emotionally involved. Without realizing it, your presence is no longer just another option, but a privilege he values. And that's the key. When someone feels that your company is not a burden, but a gift, you are at the heart of the real game of attraction. In the end, as Louise Hay reminds us, true feelings are not declared with grand words. They are revealed in small, repeated actions with consistency. When you manage to understand this at a deep level, You discover that you don't need to chase anyone because you've become someone others walk toward by their own choice. A truly valuable person is not defined by what they show the world forcefully, but by what they naturally radiate day after day. And as Louise Hay wisely pointed out, the human mind responds more to the energy we project than to the words we speak. That's why, beyond analyzing what a man does or doesn't do, it's crucial to ask yourself, how do I feel when I'm with him? Because true love is not measured in promises. It's about how you nurture yourself emotionally. True affection is manifested through constant gestures, through sincere presence, through a care that doesn't arise from duty, but from a genuine impulse of the heart. It is not something imposed or demanded. It is a spontaneous dance between two souls that find themselves on the same level of emotional resonance. And that deep connection, the one that leaves a mark, doesn't arise from the need to control or from the effort to appear perfect. It comes from the real. Natural magnetism is not about following rigid rules or fitting into someone else's mold. It's about accepting yourself, embracing who you are without apologies or filters. Impeccable clothing or well-rehearsed phrases may attract temporarily, but it's your authenticity that leaves a lasting mark. When a man crosses paths with a woman who doesn't need to disguise herself emotionally, who doesn't seek constant approval, but feels comfortable in her own skin and secure in her truth, something inside him is activated. It's an ancestral call, an internal force that makes him want to get closer, not out of obligation, but because his soul chooses her. This is what awakens one of the most powerful archetypes in the masculine unconscious, the desire to be close, not out of lack, but out of admiration. The first step to awakening this type of energy is to look inward. Ask yourself, what aspects of me make me unique? What do I love about myself beyond what others see? Louise Hay always insisted that transformation begins with internal dialogue. When you stop comparing yourself and start honoring your uniqueness, something shifts profoundly within you. Your energy rises, and that change cannot be faked. It's subtle but unmistakable. It's the kind of vibration that the unconscious of others detects immediately, as if recognizing a truth it had been searching for without knowing it. When you stop looking for someone to fill your emptiness and decide to become the source of your own fulfillment, you enter another level of attraction. You no longer need someone to complete you because you know that you are already complete. From this place of emotional abundance, the relationships you build are also more authentic. In this context, mystery is not about hiding who you are. It's about allowing the other person to want to discover it for themselves. If you take full control of the connection, if you occupy every space before the other person can approach, you are taking away their freedom to be interested, to explore, to desire. And remember, it's in that space of freedom where desire blossoms. The flame of attraction stays alive when there is space for curiosity, when everything hasn't been said, when there is room for discovery. And in this subtle game, the most powerful thing you can do is not to impress with words, but to live intensely in the present. The most powerful connection does not arise when you plan every move, but when you surrender to the moment as you are. You laugh, you listen, you share without the need to impress, without the anxiety of obtaining a result. When you let go of the fear of judgment and simply flow, something magical happens. Your energy becomes irresistible. That is true seduction. It's not about mental games or manipulative strategies. It is the natural consequence of living in alignment with your own essence. When you are at peace with yourself, your presence becomes a beacon. You don't need to try hard. Magnetism is generated on its own. The most powerful attraction occurs when you manage to balance two essential energies, being present and giving space. Unforgettable women do not stand out through scandals or artificial mysteries, but through a simple, deep truth. They know who they are, and they are not afraid to show it to the world. They don't need to beg for love. They don't dramatize to get attention. And above all, they don't live in fear of losing someone because they have already found themselves. This is the true secret to living authentic relationships. having first cultivated the most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. Women who leave a mark do not depend on others' approval because they have already approved themselves. They understand that magnetism doesn't begin with how others see you, but with how you see yourself. Louise Hay summarized it this way: self-love is the magical cure that transforms life, and in this case, it also transforms your relationships. Because when you commit to your inner growth, to taking care of your mind, energy, and emotions, you radiate a light that cannot be ignored. It's not about perfection, it's about evolution. The people who attract extraordinary connections are not those who try the hardest to be liked, but those who have invested the most in becoming the most authentic version of themselves. And that authenticity, dear, is what ignites everything. Women who have truly learned to value themselves do not cling to relationships out of fear of being alone. They know that authentic love does not come from the fear of loss, but from the freedom to choose to be with someone day after day. They do not need to hold on to someone who wants to leave because they understand something essential. What is real, what is genuine, stays. Not because it is forced, but because it chooses to. And this is where the true power of attraction lies, not in the effort to impress or in complex strategies, but in naturalness. Deep desire is ignited when there is space for the other person to decide for themselves, without pressure or forced expectations. This is a truth that the human unconscious recognizes instinctively. When you stop trying to become what you think others expect of you and simply start inhabiting your truth, something wonderful happens. You become magnetic, irresistible, not for what you do, but for what you are. The difference between someone who goes unnoticed and someone who leaves an unforgettable mark is not in seduction techniques, but in the courage to live authentically. Women who remain in the emotional memory of a man do not achieve it with grand speeches or conquest games. They achieve it with the way they make him feel about himself. They do not seek to force intimacy, but they do not fear it either, and in that silent bravery, in that emotional honesty, lies their strength. Any attempt to control, force, or direct what should be a natural connection only raises invisible barriers. When you stop trying to become what you think others expect of you and simply start inhabiting your truth, something wonderful happens. You become magnetic, irresistible, not for what you do, but for what you are. The difference between someone who goes unnoticed and someone who leaves an unforgettable mark is not in seduction techniques, but in the courage to live authentically. Women who remain in the emotional memory of a man do not achieve it with grand speeches or conquest games. They achieve it with the way they make him feel about himself. They do not seek to force intimacy, but they do not fear it either, and in that silent bravery, in that emotional honesty, lies their strength. Any attempt to control, force, or direct what should be a natural connection only raises invisible barriers. Love, when it is real, does not need pressure. It flows, it gives, it feels. As Louise Hay would say, what we give, we receive multiplied. And when you give freedom, you receive authenticity. When you give trust, you receive truth. Magic happens when you allow yourself to be you, without defenses, without masks. It's not a technique or a secret strategy, but a deep understanding of how the human mind and heart work. Because in the end, the difference between someone who simply passes by and someone who leaves a mark lies in their authenticity. When you understand this truth, something reconfigures within you. You stop seeking approval, you stop begging for love, and in that act of liberation, you begin to attract people who not only see your light, but want to stay to know it better. Because what is real, what is deeply honest, has its own vibration, and the human unconscious knows how to recognize it. What truly conquers is not the need to be loved, but the inner certainty that the right love will come to you without you having to sacrifice your essence to obtain it. That is the great secret. Unforgettable women do not strive to appear unforgettable. They simply are, not because they plan it, but because they live with such clear authenticity that they become impossible to ignore. And that's why, when the time comes to let go of someone, they do so with dignity, not from resentment or resignation, but from the certainty that they are creating space for what they truly deserve. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means having the courage to open the door to something better, aligned with who you have become. Insisting on holding on to something that does not flow, clinging to someone who is not in tune with you, only drains your vital energy. But when you stop fighting against reality, when you accept what is and turn towards yourself, something immense happens. You regain your power. The energy that was previously fragmented in waiting, anxiety, and need returns to you, and that energy is magnetic. At that moment, your vibration changes, and with that change, what truly aligns with your value begins to approach you. So the question stops being whether that person chooses you and becomes, does this reflect the love I truly want? Does this honor the woman I have become? If the answer is not a resounding yes, perhaps it's time to let go, to trust, to allow the natural flow of life to bring you what is at your level. Because in the end, the true triumph is not in holding on to someone at any cost, but in becoming so full, so authentic, that simply by being who you are, the world and love will come to you. There's something we must never forget. The unforgettable is not the one who insists, but the one who inspires. So often we focus so much on making a relationship work, on keeping it afloat at all costs, that we stop asking ourselves the most important question. Is this making me happy? Is this nourishing me? Or am I slowly draining myself? When someone doesn't value you, the problem isn't how to get them to see you. It's why you're drifting away from yourself trying to make it work. Because no bond, no matter how deep it may seem, can fill a void that can only be filled from within. The real question isn't, how do I make them stay? But does this reflect the kind of love I want and deserve in my life? And the answer is often not found in changing the other person, but in returning to yourself, in redirecting your attention to your well-being, your inner peace, your balance. Every time you exhaust yourself trying to mold someone to fit your story, you disconnect from your power. Take care of your energy as you would care for something sacred. Reconnect with your dreams, with your purpose, with what lights up your soul. And as you strengthen from within, something amazing starts to happen. Your energetic field shifts, and that change transforms everything. Here lies the deepest secret, one that Louise Hay understood better than anyone. When you let go with love, without attachment or resentment, you don't just set the other person free, you free yourself. And that liberation creates a powerful effect, because you are no longer the woman who begs to be seen. You are the woman who sees herself with complete clarity. And that, my dear, is magnetic. Many times, it's in that very act of letting go, of choosing yourself, that the other person begins to see what they couldn't perceive before. But the most important thing isn't what they see, it's what you discover. Because letting go is not a gesture toward them, it's a sacred act for yourself. It's telling the universe, I trust the process of life. What is truly yours will never need to be forced. Authentic love is not born from fear of loss, but from the peace that comes when you know that what resonates with your truth will always find its way back. And when you release what doesn't flow, you create space for what does, whether it's with that same person transformed or with someone who arrives fully aligned with the woman you've become. In the end, it all comes down to a choice. Will you keep trying to control what is beyond your power, or will you claim the place of power that has always existed within you? Because yes, what you are seeking is also seeking you. And when you work on your energy, your self-worth, your authenticity, the universe responds, not just with people, but with experiences that reflect your new standard. Be that woman who doesn't fear letting go, because she trusts. Trusts that what is real will remain, that what is authentic will be recognized, and that true love doesn't need to be chased, it only needs to be shared. Trust yourself, trust your path, and above all, trust that what's meant for you will never have to be begged for or pursued. It will arrive softly but surely at the perfect moment. You deserve the best. Don't accept less. Because when you stop fighting against what doesn't resonate with you and begin to flow with what does, something inside you changes, and that change transforms your presence, your relationships, and the way others perceive you. So now, ask yourself this question with complete honesty. Am I ready to stop insisting on what doesn't value me and start becoming the woman who inspires, who attracts, and who leaves a mark, simply by being who she is? If the answer is yes, start today. Focus your attention on what truly matters, yourself. Because when you choose you, everything else, everything that vibrates with you, that is authentic, that is made just for you, arrives naturally. And if this message touched something inside you, if you felt that these words resonated with your truth, then subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and join me on this journey of self-discovery, transformation, and conscious love. Leave a like if you connected with this video, and share it with that person you know needs to hear this today. Remember, you never know when your actions might plant a light on someone else's path. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.